Today I plan on drawing characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender strictly from memory. Work has gotten super busy unfortunately the past few days, so I figured a good way to take a breather is to do a fun little drawing challenge. And going into this video challenge, I expected this to be split into different difficulty levels. Aang, Sokka, and Katara I put in the super easy tier, Iroh, Zuko, and Toph I put in somewhat easy, and then there's just Bumi, which I put into the probably not easy tier. I think this video should be pretty fun and pretty simple, so let's get into it. First up is our very own Bonzu Pippin Paddleopsicopolis, the third, but we're drawing him when he was a 12-year-old boy without all of that luscious hair. Originally I planned to do a voiceover while drawing, but then I realized that I wasn't recording my mic while actually drawing, so unfortunately I'll have to talk through this time lapse. Aang is by far the easiest of the group for one main reason. It's a Redditor's worst nightmare, and hopefully the opposite of what you do to this video. Speaking of which, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Besides Aang's simple design and despite my aphantasia, I knew that he would be super easy because I'm currently working on a series where I'm converting the first episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender into a comic book, and it's been a lot of fun. Please check it out after the video if you haven't already. But yeah, because of this video series, I'm actually pretty experienced with drawing these characters now. And yeah, Aang was coming along pretty nicely. I know he mainly wears this like poncho outfit, so that's kind of what I added. It was time for coloring, and I'm also red-green colorblind, so I'm sure the colors aren't going to be too accurate, but let's zoom on through. And here we have Aang in not only my style, but also from memory. If we were to compare the two, I have no complaints whatsoever. Maybe I could have made his face look a bit wider, but other than that, I finally did something that Zuko has been dreaming of doing for so long, and that's capturing the Avatar's essence. Next up is the boomer to the Aang, and that's the boomerang wielding Sokka. For the pose, I chose him warming up because I felt like it's something Sokka would do, and if we wanted to break down Sokka's design, he's pretty similar to Aang when we think about it. What I mean by that is, he's kind of mostly bald, and his hair kind of resembles a downward arrow. So technically he's just Aang, but darker. For Sokka's outfit, I gave him a fur belt in the middle, and I also added the 3 little streamers, or like these little strings or ropes, whatever they are, that protrude out in the front. I don't really know what these are, but they do a nice job of adding something to the design. Besides the fact that I didn't know what else I could add to the design, I redid the inking because I felt like it was a bit too heavy, and that's mainly because I'm using a new brush and I kind of want to get used to it. But yeah, let's move on to the coloring as well. And I knew his skin was on the darker side, at least compared to Aang, and his outfit is just blue on blue, so that's kind of what I did for that. Just like Aang, I thought I nailed his character design 100%. I didn't really know what else I could have added, but looking at the comparison, there were a couple of things that I missed out on. The first thing I forgot to add was the little patch next to his hair that kind of separates him from looking bald to actually being bald. There's also no fur belt, I guess that was a Katara thing only. And I also made the streamer things look a little bit too long and a bit too, I guess, thin. But again, besides those minor differences, I think this looks pretty good. It's time to draw Bonzu's granddaughter, June Pippin Paddleopsicopolis, but let's imagine if she was a waterbender named Katara instead. Out of the 3, this would be the hardest to draw by far, but thanks to that video with the comic recreation of Avatar, I was very used to drawing her. I gave her this battle-ready pose, and the main thing I wanted to focus on for this drawing was to get her hair loopies down, because if I didn't add them, then this is just kind of some random water tribe girl. The outfit was also pretty similar to what I drew for Sokka, but I know that she doesn't have the 3 white string rope streamer things in the front, and the inking came out pretty heavy yet again, but now that the inking is done, it's time for the colors, and just like Sokka, I did the same thing. Katara here was probably the best one I've done yet. I don't know what else I could have done, and I guess the repetition of the drawing of this character helped so much from the comic video. Comparing the two, and yeah, I have no complaints. This drawing wasn't tough at all, but the next one is tough. Toph. She's a pretty cocky character, so I wanted to give her like an "Are you not entertained" pose, because I can easily see her rocking this stance. But after looking at this now, I realized that I didn't even remember how this pose looked correctly. If I wanted to get that pose done right, I should have extended the arms a bit more, but it ends up working out at the end anyways. The first area of difficulty came from her hair. I wasn't too certain on what the bangs looked like, so I gave her some strands in the front, and then I contemplated whether or not she had a headband, but figured she must have one because otherwise the top of her hair looks a bit too weird. Her clothing was another story. I knew she wore baggy short sleeves, but that was the extent of my knowledge. I ended up giving her 2 layers, and I thought it looked fairly good. I also couldn't figure out how to draw this hand that well, so I did a little trick called giving up, and just copied the other hand over. And as I mentioned before, instead of doing an "Are you not entertained" pose, I decided to make it more of an earthbending pose, and it looks so much better. This also lets me cover up her hands, and that's a huge upside. But after doing some inking, I felt that this was tough. But at the same time, it wasn't tough. I don't know, it's tough. Something was definitely missing, but I just moved on to the coloring. The beautiful thing about Avatar is that each element has their own color scheme, so I know water was blue and earth is green, so that's what I did for Toph, and even with the coloring, I wasn't really feeling this design all that much. Comparing the two, and I figured out what I could have done better. But if I'm honestly speaking, I wasn't too far off. The main differences I can see is that I made her bangs a bit too clean looking, and I also forgot the puffy ball things on her headband. Not to mention her headband is also a lot bigger than what I drew. Her clothes is kind of where I was mostly wrong, whereas the overall design looks pretty similar. I got the shades of the colors just completely off. It's lighter color on the outside and darker on the inside, but I ended up doing it vice versa. And as I mentioned before, I don't know why I gave her 2 belts when one would have been fine, but I kind of like how she looks with the 2. But yeah, although it's not 100% accurate, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out in the end. Zuko was up next, and another thing I love about Avatar characters is that most of these characters have 1 or 2 very distinct visuals characteristics that as long as you nail that design, these characters end up becoming immediately recognizable. For Aang, it's his arrow, Katara her hair loopy, Sokka it's his wolf tail hairstyle, for Toph it's her blindness, and of course Zuko it's, you know, his pecs. The hardest part of this Zuko drawing has to be the outfit, and I don't remember it at all. I added some shoulder pads and some padding under his chest, but then as I was drawing I realized I kind of ended up drawing Vegeta's armor from Dragon Ball Z. The more this went along, the less confident I felt, but after the inking was done, I was pretty happy with it. It still does resemble the armor that Frieza's army wears, but hopefully when I add the red, it'll go back to looking like Fire Nation attire. Zuko is finally complete, and besides the fact that his face at least resembles our troubled character, the rest, not so much. Compared to the actual image of Zuko, I got most of the outfit all wrong. There's no cloth belt, there's no front flap thing, no Frieza armor, but at least I got the scar on the right side, I think. Uncle Iroh is up next, and of course I can't have Iroh without some tea. The only thing I remember about Uncle Iroh is that he has some wonky sideburns and a goatee. Besides that, my goal in this drawing was to add as many wrinkles as I can. I was pretty tired at this point, so I zoomed through it. I didn't really know what his outfit looked like at all, so I just gave him this robe and called it a day. I did think about drawing maybe stupid sexy Iroh, but I didn't know if I was confident enough to draw the male body in its peak form, so I decided maybe another day. Well, I didn't know exactly what's off with my Iroh besides his fit. I think I forgot to draw the warmth of the character. My dude looks like an old man that's cosplaying as Iroh and not Iroh himself. But anyways, it's time to move on to another old man, King Bumi. I mainly just added this character just for the heck of it, and I thought it would be pretty fun. While the other 6 I did are characters that I'm very familiar with, Bumi is one that I can't really recall too many details of, so I was expecting to be very off with this one. The 2 things I focused on was his bald head and his yoked body. The face was the most important part, but I was honestly drawing kind of a blank. I had no idea what to do for the eyes, so I kind of gave him generic eyes. I also gave him a mustache and a goatee, and I added some hair. I had some good news and some bad news at this time. The bad news is that this is not Bumi, it looks nothing like him. But the good news is that I think I accidentally drew the Guild Master from Fairy Tail. Then I figured I should make his eyes look a bit crazier and then it'll resemble Bumi a bit more. But then it ended up looking like that old dude from Tekken, I think the name was Heihachi. And then at this point I thought maybe his hair just needs to be crazier to look like Bumi. But then he ended up just turning into a ripped Albert Einstein, and I had no clue anymore at this point, so I just moved on ahead with the coloring. And here we have our Bumi crossover with the Master from Fairy Tail, Heihachi from Tekken, and Albert Einstein from Oppenheimer. And now for the moment of truth, I have no idea why I assumed Bumi had a mustache. I think that by itself really screwed me over. If I didn't add that stash, I probably could have done more with his mouth and his teeth and just his face in general. But even then, I completely forgot his eyes were that misshapen and that his beard was that unkempt. I was on the right track with making his hair look kind of crazy, but I ended up kind of reverting back to the non-Albert Einstein looking one, and it kind of just made it look less, you know, Mad King-like. I also didn't get his body right at all. He's a lot less physically imposing than I remembered. But overall, this was a really fun drawing. It's just nice to take some time to just have a breather and just draw for fun. Hopefully you got to enjoy watching this video, and please check out my other video where I draw the first episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender as a comic. There's 2 parts of it out so far, and it's been so much fun, and I'm seeing so much improvement just from the first to the second, so please give it a watch as I'm pretty happy with it. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you once again, and goodbye.